The great station hung in space like a silver wheel, spinning slowly above SciFiPrime. Inside, representatives from 15 alien civilizations sat in their designated chambers. Some breathed different air. Some saw different colors. But today they all agreed on one thing: humanity had to die. The vote was unanimous. 15 glowing symbols appeared on the central display, all showing the same decision. The eldest member, a creature that looked like flowing water held together by force fields, spoke through translation devices. The humans advanced too quickly. In 300 years, they went from simple machines to quantum computers. They asked dangerous questions. They challenge old ways. We have seen this pattern before in younger species. It always ends in chaos. Another representative covered in crystalline armor added its voice. They fight among themselves constantly. Imagine what they will do when they reach the stars in force. We must act now while they are weak and divided. The decision was made. The Council's war fleet, 12,000 ships strong, would jump to Earth's solar system. They would destroy humanity's cities, break their industrial capacity, and reduce the population to primitive levels. The species would survive in small numbers, controlled and manageable. It was mercy, the Council told themselves. Better than complete extinction. Far away on the other side of the galaxy, Commander Taemin stared at his sensor screen. He commanded a small defense station orbiting Mars, one of 30 such stations Earth had placed throughout the solar system. The stations were new, built after years of arguing between nations about who would pay for space defense. Most people thought they were a waste of money. Space was empty, they said. Nothing out there would harm Earth. Taemin watched the energy readings spike again. Something was out there just beyond Neptune's orbit. The readings made no sense. They showed impossible amounts of power, far more than any human fusion reactor could produce. He sent reports to Earth Command, marking them urgent. Earth Command sent back a standard reply: investigate and report. No one took it seriously. Down on Earth, news channels talked about trade disputes and election scandals. The president of the Pacific Alliance was arguing with the Euro-African Council about mining rights on the moon. The Asian Continental Union was building a new space elevator, and everyone else complained about the costs. Nobody was watching the sky. Dr. Haywan was watching, though. She worked in a laboratory in Geneva, studying experimental fusion drives that might one day take human ships to other stars. Her equipment picked up the same energy readings that Taemin saw. She recognized them immediately. Those were jump signatures, the kind that theoretical physics said faster than light travel might produce. She called her supervisor. He didn't believe her. She called the government. They put her on hold. She called the media. They asked if she had video proof. By the time anyone listened, it was too late. The Council fleet emerged from hyperspace in a perfect formation, surrounding Earth like a closing fist. 12,000 vessels, each one larger than Earth's biggest aircraft carrier, each one carrying weapons that could crack continents. Their shields shimmered with power that made them nearly invisible to human sensors. For 6 hours, the fleet just waited. Silent. Watching. Earth's governments finally stopped arguing. Emergency sessions were called. Military forces went on high alert. Taemin received orders to return to Earth immediately with all available ships. He commanded 30 small frigates, barely larger than ocean ships back home, each one armed with missiles and railguns that suddenly seemed like toys. The president of the Global Defense Initiative tried to send a message to the alien fleet. We come in peace. We wish to establish communication and friendly relations. The translation computers worked overtime, broadcasting in every wavelength and mathematical language humans could devise. The response came in perfect English. Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, and 20 other languages simultaneously. The voice was cold, mechanical, and absolute. The Galactic Council has judged humanity. You have been found too dangerous to exist in your current form. Surrender your weapons and prepare for population reduction. Resistance is futile. No negotiation. No explanation of what they meant by population reduction. Just an ultimatum. Earth's answer came from a Russian submarine commander who didn't wait for orders. He launched 6 nuclear missiles at the nearest alien ship. The weapons were old, built during the Cold War and kept in service because nobody knew what else to do with them. They climbed through the atmosphere, their primitive guidance systems locked on the massive target. The alien ship didn't even bother moving. The missiles exploded against its shields, creating brief flowers of nuclear fire that faded without leaving a mark. The aliens had their answer. The bombardment began. Beams of superheated plasma fell from the sky like rain. They struck New York, Tokyo, London, Mumbai, São Paulo, and Lagos simultaneously. Entire cities vanished in seconds, turned into lakes of molten glass. The alien weapons were precise, designed to destroy without excessive radiation. Clean kills. Efficient Taemin's fleet engaged a single alien destroyer near Seoul. His ships fired every weapon they had. Missiles, railgun rounds, and laser beams all splashed uselessly against alien shields. The destroyer swung its weapons toward them, preparing to swat away the annoying insects. Taemin made a decision. His ship was already damaged, life support failing. His crew was dying from radiation leaks. He could retreat and die slowly, or he could do something the aliens wouldn't expect. He aimed his ship directly at the destroyer's bridge and pushed the engines to maximum. His remaining crew understood immediately. Some ejected in escape pods. Others stayed, strapping themselves in for the final ride. The destroyer's captain finally noticed the threat, but too late. The shields could stop weapons, but they couldn't stop a ship moving at full acceleration with its reactors set to overload. Taemin's frigate hit the destroyer like a bullet. Both ships exploded in a ball of fusion fire visible from the ground. Debris rained down over Korea, some pieces still glowing red-hot. In the Council flagship, the Admiral watched the display in confusion. His officers reported the incident with uncertainty. No civilized species used kamikaze tactics in the opening moves of a war. Such desperate measures only came after long campaigns, after all hope was lost. These humans had barely fought, and already they were sacrificing themselves. Adjust tactics, the Admiral ordered. Increase the rate of bombardment. We must break them quickly before they adapt to war conditions. But as the first day ended and Earth counted 2 billion dead, as fires burned across every continent and the oceans boiled in spots where plasma beams hit, humans were not breaking. They were learning, and that terrified the Council more than any weapon could. 3 months had passed since the sky caught fire. Half of humanity was dead. The survivors lived underground like rats, hiding in subway tunnels, missile silos, and caves that had become the last refuge of civilization. The aliens controlled the surface, their ships hovering over ruined cities like metal vultures. The Council's commanders expected surrender any day now. In their experience, species broke quickly once their cities fell. But every morning brought new reports of human attacks, small raids, sabotage, ambushes that made no tactical sense but killed aliens anyway. Jinwoo crouched in the ruins of what used to be Busan. He was an engineer before the war, designing cargo ships for ocean transport. Now he built bombs in a basement with 12 other survivors. They had no military training, no proper weapons, and no hope of winning. But they had anger, and that was enough. A Council scout ship had crashed 2 weeks ago, hit by surface-to-air missiles from a resistance cell in the mountains. The aliens sent recovery teams, but Jinwoo's group got there first. They dragged the wreckage into the basement of a collapsed building, working through the night to hide it from orbital sensors. The scout ship was small, barely the size of a bus, but it was treasure. Jinwoo carefully opened the power core, his hands shaking as he worked. The technology was beyond anything humans had built. The core used antimatter, contained in magnetic fields so complex that Jinwoo couldn't understand half of what he was seeing. But he didn't need to understand it. He just needed to weaponize it. "This is insane," Myung said. She had been a medical student. Now she served as their lookout. "If that thing explodes while you're working on it, it'll vaporize everything within 10 kilometers. "Then stay 10 kilometers away," Jinwoo replied, not looking up from his work. His tools were primitive: screwdrivers, wire cutters, and a laptop running engineering software that was already outdated before the war. He was trying to hotwire a fusion bomb using alien technology and human ingenuity. It took 3 days. The final device looked like something built by a madman. Alien components were held together with duct tape and welded steel. Jinwoo couldn't make it safe or clean. He could only make it work once. But once was enough. They planted the bomb in a tunnel system the aliens used to move troops from their landing zone to the occupation headquarters in downtown Busan. Jinwoo set a simple timer, gave everyone 30 minutes to get clear, and ran. The explosion carved a crater 300 meters deep. The antimatter didn't just destroy the tunnel. It erased it from existence along with 200 alien soldiers and their equipment. The shockwave shattered windows 50 kilometers away. The Council's admiral reviewed the damage report with growing concern. How did primitives acquire antimatter weapons? They didn't acquire them, sir, his intelligence officer replied. They built one using parts from the crashed scout ship. The admiral stared at the report. The device was crude, unstable, and inefficient. It wasted 90% of the antimatter's potential energy, but it worked. These humans had taken technology they couldn't possibly understand and turned it into a weapon in less than a month. Increase security around all wreckage sites, the admiral ordered, but he knew it was too late. The damage was done. Humans now knew alien technology could be weaponized. They would find other ways. Far to the north, in the Himalayan mountains, Captain Sang-woo led 30 Marines through a snowstorm. They were hunting an alien patrol that had been harassing refugee convoys. The Council soldiers were Vreks, a species that evolved on a warm, stable planet. They needed environment suits to survive Earth's mountains, and the suits were loud, clumsy, and bright against the snow. Sang-woo's Marines wore white camouflage and thick coats. They moved silently, using old-fashioned skills that the Council had forgotten: tracking, stalking, ambush tactics that were ancient when humans still lived in caves. The Vreks patrol never saw them coming. One moment they were marching through the snow scanning for human heat signatures. The next moment bullets tore through their environment suits. The Vreks died quickly in the thin, cold air, their bodies freezing before they hit the ground. Sang-woo studied the dead aliens. Their technology was impressive, but their bodies were weak. They couldn't handle cold. They couldn't handle low oxygen. They needed perfect conditions to fight effectively. Earth didn't have perfect conditions. Earth was a hell world by galactic standards. Humans evolved here, adapted to survive ice ages and supervolcanoes and plague after plague. What was harsh to humans was lethal to most aliens. Sang-woo sent a report to what remained of Earth Command. The enemy can't operate in extreme environments without heavy support. Recommend all resistance forces relocate to mountains, deserts, and polar regions. Let them try to dig us out. The strategy spread quickly. Resistance cells moved to places where humans barely survived, but aliens couldn't follow. The Sahara Desert became a fortress. The Amazon jungle swallowed whole alien companies. Antarctica became a staging ground for raids on Council supply lines. In New Zealand, deep underground, Dr. Haywan worked by the light of emergency lamps. Her laboratory was gone, destroyed in the first bombardment. Now she worked in a converted mine shaft with equipment salvaged from a dozen universities. She had 40 scientists helping her, the survivors of Earth's academic community. They were studying captured alien communication devices. The Council used quantum networks, faster than light communication that let their fleets coordinate across star systems. It was technology humans had only theorized about. The Council had perfected it thousands of years ago. Haywan couldn't build quantum communicators. She didn't have the materials or the knowledge. But she discovered something interesting. When she brought a captured device near her head and concentrated, the device glitched. Static appeared in its transmissions. Errors crept into its data. She tested it with other scientists. The effect was consistent. Human brain activity, the electromagnetic patterns produced by thinking, interfered with Council quantum technology. Not much, just a little, but a little was enough. We're incompatible, Haywan explained to her team. Council species all evolved with similar brain chemistry. Their technology is designed to work around their neural patterns, but human brains are different. We're like noise in their system. If they could amplify that noise, they could jam Council communications. If they could jam communications, they could blind the fleet. And blind enemies could be killed. Haywan started building what she called neural disruptors. They were simple devices, barely more than amplifiers for human brain activity. Resistance fighters carried them into battle, turning their own thoughts into weapons. Council troops started reporting phantom orders, sensor ghosts, and communication failures. The Council's admiral ordered another tactical review. The war was 3 months old and they had total orbital supremacy. They controlled all major cities. They had killed half the human population. By every logical measure, they were winning. So why did it feel like they were losing? His officers had no answers. The humans kept fighting. They kept adapting. Every tactic the Council used, humans found a counter for. Energy shields? Humans used kinetic weapons. Thermal sensors? Humans fought in extreme cold. Quantum communications? Humans jammed them with their brain activity. The Admiral looked at the casualty reports. The Council had lost more soldiers in 3 months of fighting humans than in the previous 1,000 years of peacekeeping operations across the galaxy. The humans weren't just fighting. They were learning. And every lesson made them more dangerous. How long until complete pacification? The Admiral asked. His strategic computer calculated based on current trends. The answer came back, and the Admiral stared at it in disbelief. At the current rate, complete pacification was impossible. The humans were adapting faster than the Council could suppress them. For the first time in 5,000 years, the Galactic Council faced an enemy that refused to lose. 2 years into the war, Earth still burned, but humanity refused to die. The Council had expected a short campaign. Instead, they found themselves stuck in an endless fight against an enemy that turned every defeat into a lesson. Commander Tae-min stood in the command center of Fortress Liberty, a hidden base carved into an asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. He had survived the battle over Sol by pure luck, his escape pod picked up by a mining ship. Now he commanded what remained of Earth's space forces, 300 ships built from scrapped satellites, mining equipment, and captured alien technology. They were ugly vessels, held together by welds and prayers, but they flew. On the holographic display, Tae-min studied the map of Council space. His intelligence teams had been working for months, piecing together information from captured computers and interrogated prisoners. They had found something important. 3 worlds, 3 places the Council valued above all others. Operation Prometheus is ready, his executive officer reported. Strike teams are in position. Tae-min nodded. This was insane. They were going to attack the Council's home territory, not to conquer but to send a message. Humanity could reach anywhere. The first team, led by pilot Yuna, targeted Krell Prime. The Krell were the Council's founders, their civilization 10,000 years old. Their world was protected by defense stations that could destroy entire fleets. No enemy had ever reached the planet's surface. Yuna's squadron of 15 fighters approached using a captured Council ship as cover. The defense stations scanned them, reading their identification codes as friendly. By the time the Krell realized the trick, the fighters were through the perimeter and diving toward the surface. They didn't target cities or military bases. Yuna's mission was specific. The central archives of Krell Prime contained 10,000 years of history, libraries that held the sum of Council knowledge, cultural treasures that the Krell valued more than weapons or territory. The fighters dropped their bombs with precision, kinetic penetrators that punched through shielding and detonated underground. The explosions were small, controlled, but placed perfectly to collapse the archive vaults. Millions of data crystals, irreplaceable historical records, and original manuscripts vanished in seconds. Yuna's squadron didn't all make it out. 5 fighters were destroyed by defense fire, but 10 escaped, jumping to hyperspace using stolen navigation codes. The Krell response was immediate. Not military action. Grief. The entire species entered mourning. Their history was gone. 10,000 years of philosophy, art, and scientific discovery reduced to rubble. The Krell representatives demanded the Council end the war immediately. How could they justify this destruction? The humans weren't just fighting. They were erasing culture itself. On Earth, Jinwu worked in an underground factory that stretched for kilometers beneath the ruins of what used to be Shanghai. Thousands of workers using tools salvaged from destroyed industries were building weapons. Not human weapons. Not alien weapons. Something new. The first plasma rifles came off the assembly line looking wrong. They were cobbled together from 3 different technologies: human power cells, alien plasma generators, and Council magnetic containment fields, all forced to work together through sheer engineering stubbornness. The weapons were inefficient. They overheated after 20 shots. Sometimes they exploded, killing their users, but when they worked, they could punch through Council armor. Jinwu picked up one of the rifles, feeling its weight. It was heavy, ugly, and dangerous to the person holding it. It was perfect. Start production, he ordered. I want 10,000 of these within a month. His assistant stared at him. Sir, we don't have enough materials, and the failure rate is 40%. Then we'll make 20,000 and accept the losses, Jinwu replied. The Council has perfect weapons that never fail. We have weapons that sometimes work, but we have more people willing to use them. Dr. Haewon sat in her laboratory, now relocated to a bunker deep under the Rocky Mountains. Around her, quantum computers hummed, processing data stolen from Council systems. She had spent 2 years studying their technology, looking for weaknesses. She had found something beautiful. The Council's strength was their unity. 15 species coordinated through a quantum communication network that spanned the galaxy. Every ship, every soldier, every command center connected in real time. It was a masterpiece of engineering. It was also a single point of failure. A1 had created a virus, not a biological weapon, a digital one, designed specifically for quantum networks. It was simple in concept. The virus didn't destroy data, it changed it. Navigation coordinates shifted slightly. Sensor readings became unreliable. Friend or foe identification glitched. The changes were small, subtle, nearly invisible. But in space combat, small errors killed. She uploaded the virus to a captured Council communications relay and let it spread. Within days, Council ships across the galaxy started experiencing problems. A supply convoy jumped to the wrong star system and ran out of fuel before they could correct course. A destroyer fired on its own support ship, reading it as an enemy vessel. Navigation systems led ships into asteroid fields. The Council's military started to doubt their own technology. Paranoia spread. If sensors couldn't be trusted, how did they know what was real? If communications were compromised, how did they know orders were genuine? 15 species that had cooperated for 5,000 years began to suspect each other. The Krell blamed the Vrex for poor maintenance. The Vrex accused the crystalline Shera of sabotage. Old grudges buried under millennia of unity surfaced again. Captain Sang-Woo led a raid on a Council supply depot in orbit around Jupiter. His team moved through zero gravity like they were born to it, using magnetic boots and maneuvering thrusters salvaged from destroyed stations. They reached the depot's control center and found something unexpected. A Council ambassador. Not a soldier. An actual diplomat, captured when his ship was destroyed by Haywon's virus and forced to drift until Sang-Woo's team found him. The interrogation took 3 days. The ambassador talked willingly, eager to explain why the war was a mistake. He revealed the truth. The Council wasn't unanimous. 7 species had voted against the war, wanting peaceful contact with humanity. 8 species voted for extermination, fearing what humans might become. The coalition was fragile, held together by tradition and momentum. Sang-Woo sent the information to Earth Command. The Council was fracturing. They just needed one more push. Taemin received Sang-Woo's intelligence and smiled. He had been planning the next phase of Operation Prometheus, and now he knew exactly where to strike. The Council met in a massive station above SciFiPrime, their neutral ground. That station was the symbol of their unity. It was time to destroy that symbol. Taemin's fleet of 800 ships, a mix of human and captured vessels, jumped into the Vereth system. Alarms screamed across Council space, a human fleet deep in their territory approaching their sacred station. It was impossible. It was terrifying. The Council scrambled its defense forces, but Haywon's virus had done its work. Ships arrived late, with wrong coordinates, their weapon systems glitching. Taemin's fleet reached the station and surrounded it. Instead of firing, Taemin opened a communication channel. His message broadcasted to every Council world simultaneously. People of the galaxy, the Council came to Earth to destroy us. They killed 6 billion humans. They bombed our cities, killed our children, and declared us too dangerous to exist. We have learned from them. We now have the power to return that favor. We can glass your homeworlds. We can erase your species. We can do to you what you did to us. He paused, letting the words sink in across 1,000 worlds. But we won't. We offer what you never did. Mercy. Surrender now. End this war. Or we will show you what happens when you teach humans to hate. The Council's Grand Admiral watched the broadcast from his flagship. He saw his civilization crumbling around him. The network was compromised. Trust between species was broken. Human fleets operated in Council space with impunity. And worst of all, they were winning not through superior technology, but through adaptation and pure stubborn refusal to die. The Council had feared what humanity might become if left alone. They had attacked to prevent a future threat. Instead, they created something worse. They taught humanity that the galaxy was hostile. They forced humans to weaponize everything, to adapt to total war, to become the monsters the Council feared, and humanity had learned those lessons well. Year 4 of the war marked a shift that no one expected. Earth's population had stabilized at 3 billion. Cities were being rebuilt underground and in the mountains. Council forces controlled less than 30% of the planet. But more importantly, humans were no longer defending. They were conquering. Admiral Taemin's fleet had grown to 800 ships. Some were captured Council vessels, repaired and repainted with Earth's colors. Others were strange hybrids built by combining human engineering with alien technology. They were the most powerful fleet humanity had ever assembled, and Taemin was using them to free slaves. The first target was Theta Garrison, a mining colony in the Outer Reach sector. The Council used it as a prison world, forcing captured species to mine rare minerals. The Cleth, an insectoid species conquered by the Council 200 years ago, worked there in chains. When Taemin's fleet arrived, the Council garrison tried to fight. They lasted 6 hours. Human Marines stormed the mining facilities, breaking open prison cells and destroying the control collars the Council used to control their slaves. The Cleth workers stared at their liberators in confusion. One of them, a worker named Tick, asked the question they were all thinking. Why do you help us? You are at war. You are dying. Why spend resources on us? Captain Sang-woo, who led the ground assault, replied simply, because the Council showed us what evil looks like. We won't become them. Word spread quickly through Council space. Humans weren't just fighting for Earth. They were liberating conquered worlds. Species that had suffered under Council rule for centuries saw a chance for freedom. Rebellions erupted on a dozen worlds. The Council, already struggling to fight humanity, now faced multi-species uprisings across their territory. On Earth, Jinwoo stood in a massive shipyard built into the side of Mount Kilimanjaro. Around him, workers assembled something that looked like a nightmare. The Titan-class battleship was humanity's answer to the Council's superior technology. It was 5 kilometers long, built from the hulls of 3 destroyed Council cruisers welded together. It had human reactors, alien weapons, and armor plating from 6 different species. It looked like it was designed by a committee that couldn't agree on anything. It was also the most powerful warship in the galaxy. This is insane, Mi Young said, walking beside Jin Woo. She had survived Busan and now served as his chief assistant. 3 different power systems that barely worked together. Weapons that weren't designed to be on the same ship. It shouldn't fly. But it does, Jinwoo replied, watching as workers installed the final weapon batteries. That's humanity's advantage. The Council builds perfect ships, every system optimized, every design refined over thousands of years. But perfect means inflexible. We build garbage that works. The first Titan, christened Indomitable, launched 3 weeks later. Admiral Yuna commanded it, promoted after her successful raid on Krell Prime. Her mission was to destroy a Council shipyard in the Vega sector. The shipyard was protected by 8,000 vessels, the largest concentration of military power the Council could assemble. Yuna's fleet numbered 200 ships. They jumped into the Vega system expecting to die. Instead, they won. The Indomitable's weapons were devastating. It had plasma cannons from the Vrex, particle beams from the Krell, and missile systems designed by human engineers who never learned that certain things were impossible. The ship's shields were equally chaotic, layers of different technologies that somehow combined to stop weapons that should have torn through them. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it ended, the Council shipyard was debris, and Yuna's fleet had destroyed 8,000 enemy vessels. The Indomitable was damaged, bleeding atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches, but it survived. More importantly, it proved something. Humans could build weapons that matched the Council's finest. Dr. Haewan's quantum virus had spread through 70% of Council space. Their civilization, built on instant communication and perfect coordination, was collapsing. Ships got lost in hyperspace, unable to trust their navigation systems. Supply lines broke down. Command structures fell apart as officers couldn't verify if orders were real or viral corruption. In her laboratory, Haewan watched the chaos spread and felt no joy. She had created a weapon that destroyed civilizations, and she understood what that meant. After the war, people would call her a genius or a monster. Probably both. But right now she was just tired. How many more will die before they surrender? She asked her assistant. Does it matter? They chose this. We just want to survive. Haewan nodded but didn't feel better. War had a cost and someone had to pay it. The Council's Grand Admiral watched his civilization burn from the bridge of his flagship. Around him, holographic displays showed the situation across Council space. Rebel uprisings, lost fleets, corrupted communications, economic collapse as trade routes failed. 4 council species had gone extinct, destroyed by human retaliation or internal conflicts triggered by the virus. 6 more were on the edge of surrendering. The remaining species retreated to their home systems, abandoning the empire they had built over 5,000 years. His communications officer looked up from her console. "Sir, we're receiving a message from Earth Command. They're demanding our surrender." The Admiral almost laughed. A few years ago, humans didn't even have faster-than-light travel. Now they were dictating terms to the galaxy's oldest alliance. How had it come to this? He knew the answer. The Council had made a fundamental mistake. They assumed that because they were older, they were wiser. They assumed that because their technology was more advanced, they would win easily. They never considered that humanity's advantage wasn't technology. It was adaptability. Every species in the Council evolved on safe worlds, stable climates, abundant resources. They had time to develop slowly, carefully, perfectly. Earth was different. Earth tried to kill humans every few thousand years. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, disease. Humans survived by being flexible, by learning quickly, by turning every challenge into an opportunity. The Council taught humans that the galaxy was dangerous. Humans learned, they adapted, and now they were unstoppable. "Open a channel," the Admiral ordered. "I want to speak to whoever leads Earth's forces." Admiral Taman's face appeared on the display. He looked tired, older than his years. The Admiral understood that feeling. War aged everyone who touched it. "I am Grand Admiral Vec of the Galactic Council. I wish to discuss terms of surrender." Taman nodded slowly. "The terms are simple. The Council will dissolve. All member species will disarm except for defensive forces. You will pay reparations, not money, knowledge. Every species will share their technology, history, and science with humanity, and you will leave us alone forever." "And if we refuse?" Taman's expression didn't change. "Then we finish what you started. We glass your homeworlds. We erase your species. We become the monsters you feared. Your choice." The Admiral looked around his bridge. His officers were exhausted, defeated. The Council's member species were broken. Their unity shattered. They could keep fighting, but the outcome was inevitable. Humanity would win. The only question was how many more would die first. "I accept your terms." The Council surrenders. Across the galaxy, the news spread faster than light. The war was over. Humanity had won. The Council that had ruled for 5,000 years was finished. A new era was beginning, and humans would define it. In the ruins of Sol, civilians emerged from their bunkers and saw blue sky for the first time in 4 years. On Mars, children played in the domes without fear of bombardment. Throughout human space, people celebrated. They had survived. They had won. But those who fought knew the truth. They hadn't won. They had just refused to lose. And that refusal had cost 6 billion lives and changed humanity forever. The war ended not with a final battle, but with a signature on a digital document. 15 species, their representatives gathered in what remained of the Council station above SciFiPrime, agreed to humanity's terms. The Council that had ruled the galaxy for 5,000 years ceased to exist. In its place, something new and uncertain was born. Fleet Admiral Tamin stood aboard the Indomitable as Council representatives came to formalize their surrender. He wore his dress uniform, clean and pressed for the first time in 4 years. Behind him stood the officers who had survived the war. Yuna, now an admiral herself. Sang Wu, promoted to general. Jin Wu, appointed as Earth's Minister of Defense Technology. Dr. He Wan, who wore civilian clothes because she refused to accept a military rank despite her contributions. The ceremony was brief. No speeches about honor or glory, just facts and signatures. 4 Council species were extinct, destroyed by war and internal collapse. 6 species surrendered unconditionally, their military forces disbanded and their worlds placed under human observation. The remaining 5 retreated to their home systems, choosing isolation over submission. They would never venture into space again, traumatized by what humans had done to them. The terms were harsh but not cruel. Council species could keep defensive weapons, but nothing capable of attacking another world. They would pay reparations in the form of knowledge. Every technology, every scientific discovery, every historical record would be shared with humanity. The species that had tried to erase Earth would now teach humans everything they knew. Timon signed the final document and looked at the council representatives. Some showed relief. Others showed shame. A few showed fear. He understood all those emotions. War left scars on everyone it touched. This didn't have to happen, he said quietly. You came to our world. You killed our people. You forced us to become what you feared. Remember that when you teach your children about this war. You created us. The ceremony ended. The representatives departed. Timon stood alone on the bridge and allowed himself to feel the weight of it all. 6 billion dead. Earth scarred beyond recognition. Humanity transformed into something harder, colder, more dangerous. Was this victory? Or just survival with a different name? On Earth, reconstruction had already begun. Jinwoo oversaw the rebuilding efforts, combining human and alien technology in ways that made traditional architects weep. The new cities looked wrong. Buildings that mixed 3 different architectural styles. Power systems cobbled together from 5 different technologies. Transportation networks that shouldn't work but did. A reporter asked Jinwoo why the cities looked so chaotic. Because chaos is honest, he replied. The council built perfect cities using perfect designs refined over thousands of years. Those cities are beautiful and they're dead. Our cities are ugly and alive. They grow, they adapt, they survive. The new soul rose from the ashes of the old. Half the buildings were underground, protected against future orbital attacks. The other half reached toward the sky, as if daring the stars to try again. In the city center, a memorial wall listed the names of 6 billion dead. It took up 30 city blocks, and even that wasn't enough space. Dr. Haewon established the Institute of Xeno-Relations in what used to be Geneva. Its mission was to understand why the war happened and ensure it never happened again. She recruited scientists from both human and alien species, creating the first truly multi-species research center in the galaxy. Her first report was brutal in its honesty. The council feared us because we changed quickly. They evolved on safe worlds where change was slow and survival was easy. Earth tried to kill humans every few thousand years. We adapted or died. The council saw our rapid advancement and called it dangerous. They were right. We are dangerous. But we had no choice. Our world made us this way. The report continued with recommendations. Humanity needed to understand other species, their fears and hopes. More importantly, humans needed to understand themselves. What had they become during the war? And could they be more than weapons? Admiral Yuna led the first diplomatic missions to former council worlds. It was strange work for someone who had spent 4 years killing aliens. She arrived at Krell Prime expecting hatred. Instead, she found curiosity. The younger Krell wanted to understand humans. They asked questions about Earth, about culture, about why humans fought so hard. Yuna answered honestly, and in doing so, built the first real bridges between species. You destroyed our archives, an elderly Krell scholar told her during one meeting. 10,000 years of history gone, why? Because we learned from you, Yuna replied. You taught us that war isn't about honor or fairness. It's about winning. You bombed our cities without warning. We struck what you valued most. You created the rules. We just followed them. The Krell had no answer to that. Historian Nari worked in the ruins of the Council's central archives, piecing together what survived. She found recordings of the original debate before the vote to attack Earth. Most Council members had argued for extermination, citing humanity's rapid advancement as proof of danger. But one voice stood out. A Krell counselor named Velk had argued against the war. His words, suppressed before the vote, were prophetic. If we attack them, we teach them that the galaxy is hostile. They will adapt to that hostility. They will ensure the galaxy can never threaten them again. We should fear not what humanity is, but what we will force them to become. Nari published Velk's speech across human and alien networks. It became required reading in schools. The counselor who tried to prevent the war became a symbol of what might have been, if wiser voices had prevailed. 3 years after the war ended, humanity controlled 40% of the former council space, not through conquest, through settlement. Former council species couldn't colonize harsh worlds. They needed specific atmospheres, temperature ranges, and environmental conditions. Humans could live almost anywhere. Death worlds that the council avoided became human colonies. Planets with high gravity, thin atmospheres, or extreme temperatures. Worlds that would kill most species in days. Humans terraformed them, adapted to them, thrived on them. The galaxy that seemed so vast and empty suddenly had room for billions of humans. Former council species watched with mixed emotions. Awe at human adaptability, fear of human expansion, gratitude that humans weren't as cruel as they could have been. The galaxy was changing and humans were the catalyst. On Earth, now a garden world recovering from war's damage, Taman retired from military service. He spent his days at the memorial wall reading names of the dead. 6 billion people who never asked for war, who died because aliens feared what they might become. A young student approached him one day. "Sir, they say you won the war. Is that true?" Taman looked at the wall of names. "We didn't win. We just refused to die. There's a difference." "Then what difference? Winners get to be happy about it. We just get to survive with the memories." The galaxy entered a new era. No council, no unified government. Just species trying to coexist with the newcomers who proved that age didn't equal wisdom. And advancement didn't mean invincibility. Humans spread across the stars, building their chaotic cities and impossible technologies, living on worlds that should be uninhabitable. The Council had waged war on Earth to prevent humanity from changing the galaxy. They failed. Humanity changed everything. They proved that perfection was a trap, that adaptation beat optimization, that the will to survive could overcome any advantage. Future historians would debate whether humanity's rise was good or evil, whether the Council deserved their fate, whether 6 billion deaths could ever be justified. But those debates missed the point. The Council made a choice. They chose war, they chose genocide, and they discovered that when you try to kill humans, you don't get to control what they become in response. Humanity didn't ask to be the galaxy's apex predator. They were made into it, one atrocity at a time. And the universe would never forget the lesson. Never attack humans, not because they're strong, but because they'll adapt to whatever you throw at them, learn from your mistakes, and become stronger than you imagined possible. The Council's era ended. Humanity's era began, and the galaxy would never be the same.